Buds, you real.
So hello everyone. I have promised my fam, Douglas Hopson, who is a celebrity author of The Untold Secret. I asked for permission to do a review of his book, The Untold Secret, right here in my hand. And I wanted to do the review because first of all, I was intrigued by his vulnerability in doing this book and putting this story out. And there were some things that caught my attention in this book as I was reading it. And, when I interviewed him, I had to kind of hold the tears back, like just listening to the story, because you can kind of, when people are storytelling, when people are telling a story, you kind of vision those things happening. And he talks about how he was chained to bars and how he was, as a child, molested by his mother and his uncle. And he had told his mom about his uncle doing these things to him, and she didn't believe it. And so I wanted to do a review on the book. It's a very good book. You guys go get it. Pretty much this story is about a child that was molested by his mother and his uncle, and how even he would be sent to foster homes and was violated in those foster homes. And there were several points in this book that touched me. I mean, it's a must read. I'm just going to read this. As I walked into my social worker's office to discuss my discharge plans, my heart began to race and I began to sweat badly. I don't know what was going on. And finally, I screamed. My social worker looked at me and said, "Are you okay?" She sent me to the nurse, and the nurse took my vital signs. My blood pressure was high, my temperature was high, and I was shaking. The psychologist said I was suffering with separation anxiety. That was a foreign term to me. So he began to explain what it was and how I was being affected by it. I experienced fear and panic when I thought about going to school in the morning. I would always tell my counselor that I felt nauseous and I had a headache. I always found an excuse not to go to school. I had repeated nightmares involving the theme of separation, and I was always reluctant to go to school or elsewhere because of fear of separation. Was I ready to return home? Was I completely comfortable to go back down memory lane? Or should I purposely sabotage my discharge and stay in the place where I felt safe, secure, and in a comfort zone? So what was going on is that he didn't want, because he was being abused, molested, violated in the home, he didn't want the very thought of him having to discharge from where he was to go home, just caused him all kinds of issues. So he thought in his mind, I'll just cause problems to make me have to stay here so I don't have to go back to that. I'd rather be here than be there. But anyway, he was saying that he had thoughts of, going through his mind, like he was thinking, it says, was I at fault? Was I a victim? Was I a boy? Was I a girl? Like he didn't know what he was. His uncle was molesting him. His mom was molesting him, and he suffered as a child. He was so vulnerable. But at that point in the book, instead of him getting discharged to go home, he was able to get discharged to another location. It took about 3 weeks for him to get there, but he did get to go to another location. The spirit of abandonment began to seep in again. How could this man who says he loves me betray me like this? He said he loved me. Everyone I tried to trust had done this to me. I was a fool to believe that he was going to be truthful and care about me. I called and called, but he didn't pick up the phone. Did I ruin what he worked so hard for? Did I blow everything? See, when a child is being molested and being violated and abused, they start having the feelings of thinking it's them, that it's their fault, but it's never a child's fault to be treated like this child was treated in this book and no other child. Like he was that was torture. And in our interview, I interviewed Doug Hopson, and in the interview, we talked about like children do not have any say so over their life. They have to do what the adults say. And they can't protect themselves from adults tying them up, molesting them, beating them. It makes you angry and it makes you sad for me. The book is so good. It said later on that evening, one of my favorite guards, Mr. Williams, came and got me and took me to Sergeant Milligan's office. I thought I was in some kind of trouble because that was the only time you went to the sergeant's office. Sergeant Milligan told me why Michael didn't show up today. His mother had passed away and he had to go back to Pennsylvania to handle the funeral. So he didn't abandon him. He had to go back to the funeral. But he said, in a way, I was happy because I didn't mess anything up. So that made him good because he thought he did it. And that's why Michael wasn't shown up. But at the same time, I was sad because Michael had lost his mother. I began to cry and Officer Williams walked me back to my pod. I could only imagine how Michael was feeling. I wanted the same thing for my mother. I wanted her to die, but I began to wonder how it would feel if she actually did die. My heart for a split second got soft, but I quickly came back to reality. Nope, I didn't care. She was dead to me, and I would never recognize her as my mother. I'm not going to give it all away. This is a super duper, super book. You got to read the story. But in the end, at the end of the day, as an adult, he says, that is my mother, you know, and I would do anything for her still, despite of all that he went through. Even he spoke about after writing this book, he had to be submitted into a psych ward just to get his mental back together, because what he did is he went to a hotel, secluded himself from everybody, and let himself go all the way back through his childhood, all the way back through his life. Every bit of torture, every bit of torment, every bit of violation that he had ever experienced as a child, he became vulnerable, let it all out, and it did something to his psyche. It did something to his mental that he had to go get help for it. He's good now. He's getting it out. He's telling the world about it. He's going to be going on tour. You guys watch out for this. The Untold Secret by Douglas Hopson. Douglas E. Hopson, the celebrity author. My fam. So you got to go get the book, you guys. And you can get the book at www.theuntoldSecret.org. You guys, I'm going to get out of here for now. Take care.